Hello. I was in Daiso just recently. I hadn't been in one for ages, so of course I had to have a bit of a browse, and I ended up buying a few little art supplies from them. Daiso is one of those Japanese 100 yen shops, although in Australia that equates to about $2.80 per item. So I picked up a few things and I thought I would show them to you today, and then I'll play around with some of the supplies and just see what I can make with them. So let's get into it. So first up is not really an art supply, but I cannot resist really pretty paper, and they had a whole wall of all of this amazing origami paper, so I picked up this design because it caught my eye. It's got 10 sheets, and I'll just quickly open it. I just love that front piece there, it's so gorgeous. I think it comes with 2 of everything, which is great. So there's that design. Oh wow, that one's so super pretty. Look how shiny it is. Yeah, there's definitely 2 of each design in here. So 5 designs and 10 sheets. The paper's very thin, and this design as well. I have not done origami in years. I should try and remember how to make a paper crane, because I used to be really good at making those, but it's been a long time and I am very rusty. I also spotted a small plastic box which is an origami paper case, so I figured I would put my origami papers in here, because I do have some other ones as well which are kind of loose in a drawer, so it would be good to just contain them all and not lose them. So let's put them in. There you go, the perfect fit, so that's really handy. Okay, so these next ones, I actually got these a long time ago, I'm talking a couple of years, and I'd lost them in the studio. I found them when I was doing my big studio sort out. They were on my red desk. There's a little shelf just around the side of it, and they were hiding right inside, and I could not remember that I'd put them there. These are Sumi Inks. Now I ended up with 2 of them because I wasn't sure if these were exactly the same or if they're different. I can't tell. One says Sumi Drawing Ink and the other says Calligraphy Liquid Ink, but they do act in a very similar manner. So anyone out there, if you can read Japanese, can you please tell me if these are the same or if they're different? And also one's got a yellow lid. I don't know if the colour of the lid denotes something different, so yeah, please let me know. See, look, they both say calligraphy down here, but one says 28 and the other says 17, so maybe they're slightly different in colour. I have no idea. I also came across some brushes. These are comic brushes, and they kind of look like that Japanese style, and I thought these would be really good to use with the ink, so I grabbed a set of 3 of them. They also had ones which were all round, but I thought I might actually find a use for the flat brush. And there wasn't much in the way of paper aside from notebooks and things, which I have many of, but they did have these calligraphy paper, but it really looks like watercolor paper to me, so I'm very curious about this. I'm going to open it. These are really nice. They feel like watercolor postcards to me. You can see there's that cold press texture on there. They do feel a bit thinner though. I would say they're around maybe 180 GSM, something like that, so it's not a 300 GSM piece of paper, but I am sure you could use watercolor on here. I might even test out some of my watercolors on this paper, but I also want to test out some of this ink as well. I did find a small watercolor paint pan set. I'm not holding out much hope for this. They did have some tubes of watercolor, but the stupid thing was it was a set of 3 tubes and they were all the same colors, so there was only a vermilion and an ochre, and who needs 3 tubes of yellow ochre? I was just thinking, wouldn't it be better if there were 3 tubes maybe with primary colours, you know, a red, blue and a yellow, and then maybe a set of secondary colours? Those would be so much more useful. So I was really curious to see what they were like, but I wasn't about to buy 3 tubes of the same colour, so I just grabbed this little watercolour paint pan set. Yeah, I can imagine this is going to be pretty terrible. I will be interested to see how it compares to the Kmart watercolour set that I just bought recently. Do check that video out if you haven't already. Those were actually quite decent, but these ones look like they are very chalky. What I was thinking is if the paint is really terrible, I'll probably just dig it out and use this palette to put other paints in. And the last 2 things I got were a couple of silly items. One of them is the lamest paint by numbers I've ever seen. I mean, look at it. I wasn't going to pick it up, but then we flipped it over and look, That is so cool. It's got the paints and a palette and everything in the back, and so that won me over, and I just thought I would get it and paint it today. I mean, it's so silly. It's such a basic picture, and there's only a few colours, but I imagine this should not take me very long at all to do. And also the other thing I got, because you know I cannot resist them, is a bunch of Scratchboard or scratch sheet things. This comes with 4 sheets, so it's only a cheap little one, and you can see how much of it I'm going to end up scratching off, but I could not resist Mount Fuji. I've been there. Let's see what other designs are in here. Okay, so we've got Mount Fuji, a lighthouse design, fireworks, that could be kind of neat, and some kind of landscape. Is that supposed to be the ocean with clouds? That's what it looks like to me. It said it comes with a bamboo scratcher. That looks pretty average. So the paints have come out. A very large paint palette there. That is a very sad looking brush. I don't know how that's going to work. This is that really shoddy plastic. Look at it. I'm a bit disappointed. I thought it was a nice hard plastic palette, but I'll use it for something anyway. I'm not going to throw that out. Here's the canvas. I might have the buyer's remorse on this one, but I'm still going to paint it. So let's start off with Mount Fuji. I used a wet rag to dampen it first because it makes scratching a lot easier, and then I went in with the wooden stick that was provided in the kit. It wasn't really great, it was a bit too awkward to get fine details, but I just used it anyway and I stuck with it. I almost got out my metal ones, but nah, I just wanted to use the kit. And I was feeling lazy, so I just scratched off the whole thing rather than try to go around those little black marks. And it was a very cathartic process, very soothing. It makes such a mess though, so I got my mini vacuum cleaner out to suck up all of the dusty bits. And then down to the bottom part, which it's only now I'm noticing that it is a reflection of the mountain. I couldn't see that before. I enjoyed doing that one so much that I thought I would also scratch out the fireworks. This one was a little more complicated, and that blunt stick was having a bit of issue trying to scratch out the details there, but it was really satisfying scratching out those big bits in the middle with the flatter end of the stick. I mean, it works well enough for the kit, so I was happy enough. And this one had such a pretty background. I really liked this. I think this was a real standout in the kit. I only ended up doing 2 of them in this video, and I'll save the other 2 for another time. So after I'd done the scratchies, I decided to get into that paint by numbers, and I started off with the background, which was just the single solid blue colour. It's actually a really pretty blue, and I liked it a lot more than I was expecting to. This turned out to be really fun. I was surprised at how good it was, probably because it was quite simple. It was just really easy to switch off and just relax as I was painting this, and I was listening to music at the same time. The canvas was actually a really decent quality, and the paints were pretty good too, although I found in a while that the white paint had completely dried in the pot, which was super annoying. This is about where I discovered that the white paint was no longer usable, so I just grabbed a tube of acrylic paint out of my collection and used that instead. This is the Amsterdam Acrylic and it's a really good one. I really like the white. I also mixed in some of the white with the pink, and unfortunately on the camera it kind of disappears, so you can't really see the cat's nose, and it does look a bit funny on the camera here, but it looks better in real life. I also added a bit of a shadow under the cat because it looked like it was floating and I didn't really care for it. Onwards to drawing on some of that calligraphy paper. I decided to treat it like a watercolor postcard, and I drew a little picture of a puffin on here. It took me a few goes to get the head shape right. I've never seen a puffin in real life, but one day I would really like to. I just came across this photo on Pixabay and thought it was really cute, so I thought I would paint it. And these paints were pretty much as crappy as I was expecting them to be, although they did run quite well, and this paper was also quite nice and held up to the watercolor paints, although it did start to buckle, but I was expecting that. The paints though were pretty chalky, they dried really chalky as well, and I don't know if you can see it, but every so often I'm picking at the tip of that brush, and that's because hairs kept coming out of it, which was really annoying. The other two brushes in the set were fine, but just for some reason this one was not working well, and you can see how nasty that black paint is especially. Some of the other colours were okay, but all of the earthy tones were pretty much hopeless. So eventually I decided I'd had enough of painting with the black, and after I filled in the details here I actually went in with some of that Sumi ink. And super annoyingly, I did not realise the camera had gone out of focus until I'd finished it, and so I have all of this footage here which is totally blurry, and in my great wisdom I did not film a background, so enjoy! I did debate actually cutting all of this out, but I just thought I'd leave it because it's not a huge amount. You can still kind of see what I'm doing, which is painting all of the black areas with that ink, and the Sumi ink is water soluble when it's wet, so you can dilute it out, and then once it dries it pretty much becomes permanent, or mostly permanent, much like an India ink. And I just went around adding some shadows. Look, it went into focus for just a tiny moment, and then I decided to do a second painting, this one with just the Sumi ink. I didn't draw anything, I basically just went straight on with the ink and a little bit of water, because the water was affecting the paper quite a lot, so I thought maybe adding a bit less water would be a smart idea. They look like finger bones, but what they're actually meant to be are segments of bamboo with leaves coming out of them. I was trying to paint in a Japanese style, but really I have no idea what I'm doing, so I just completely made this up, and it was looking a bit bare on that side, so I added in another bamboo slash finger bone structure over here. It was fun just painting with the ink though, and I really like the way it runs in water. It's nice to use, and I must use it more often now that I've actually found them again. I added one leaf up there just to break up that empty space. And then I decided I was going to do some origami. I haven't done it in a long time, and I just could not for the life of me remember how to fold a paper crane. I was trying to follow some instructions, but they weren't very clear, and I just got so frustrated with this. I find a lot of origami instructions have the little pictures, but they never have any written explanation to go with it, and so I find that very difficult. You can see here I'd made a right old mess, my fingers weren't cooperating, and so inevitably
Yeah, so that first one just got thrown on the floor in a fit of rage, and I went on to another piece of paper. I tried once again. This time I did it much better, although it's still not perfect, but I at least was able to fold a semblance of a paper crane this time. Yay! It's not perfect, but I tried.
And here are all my finished pieces from today. I had so much fun with these. The scratchies weren't too bad. The Fuji is not super great, so I might get a bit of black ink just to colour along there, because that bamboo stick was just not able to get really fine details, but it doesn't matter. I like how the fireworks turned out. That one's quite pretty. And this one, if I pick it up, you can see the holographic effect of that. So this was really great, and I will do the other two at some point later. The paper was okay. It worked better with the ink than with the watercolour. The watercolours themselves were pretty terrible, but the black ink was fine. Oh man, this thing! I remember why I haven't done origami in a long time, because it drives me crazy. But anyway, I kind of got a crane. I don't think it's quite right. There are a couple of instructions I was looking at which just made no sense whatsoever, so anyway, it's kind of a crane, so I will leave it at that. I've still got the other piece of paper which I flung on the floor, and I will probably just cut it out and stick it in my book or something, because I don't really want to throw the design away. This was the winner of the day, I think. It turned out really well, and I really like that blue paint. I was insulting it at the beginning, and aside from the white paint being all dried up, this was actually surprisingly good, and I had the most fun doing this, so there you go. It's worth the money just for the fun that it created. So thanks very much for watching this video. If you liked it, don't forget to give me a thumbs up and click that subscribe button, and let me know in the comments what you thought of these supplies from Daiso, and I will see you all again in my next video. Swatch you later. Bye!